Okay, this is a cut-in for this video. I just did the reaction to this, which this is just gonna be in the beginning probably. Boogus and Russ, if by any chance, like a miracle happens and you see my video, I'm going to link some of my music down below in the description. And I love music, so if you guys want to work, let me know. I'm a hungry artist. I do all types of music. Music makes me happy. I would love to be on Team Diamond and have your guys' support. A little motivation from you guys is awesome. I mean, I see what I see now, but a little personal motivation probably would be enough to just skyrocket me in my creativity. So please let me know. Check out the music. Any Russ fans that find this video too, check out the music. Let me know what you think. What's up, guys? We're back with another reaction video. This time we're going to be watching a Russ interview that I haven't seen yet. So let's go ahead and see what's going on.
I don't believe in luck. I don't really feel lucky. I feel rewarded for being proactive, positive, and putting the time in to get good.
Okay, so it says, but you gotta click it just to be sure.
In 2014, a college dropout with dreams of being the biggest artist in the world had an idea. Russ, a producer, rapper, and singer, decided to release one new song each week on SoundCloud, kicking off a trend that he'd continue for more than 2 years, a trend that would ultimately launch him onto the charts and a bevy of plaques onto his walls. In the ensuing half-decade, that work ethic and unwavering belief in self set the foundation for indie success, a major label partnership, billions of streams, arena tours, book deals, and of course, a healthy dose of controversy. And it all started with one idea.
I've never had an issue with
Tell me a
Russ.
little bit about your family growing up.
I don't know.
So my mom and dad were born in New York, New Jersey, Italians. They didn't move to the South till they were like 30. I always feel like I kind of grew up Northern, like in the house it was Northern Italians. But I was in the South, so it was a cool kind of juxtaposition. I lived in North Carolina for 13 years, moved to Georgia when I was going into 8th grade, so when I was 12. So my dad was just like job chasing and just, doing that. But I learned kind of early on how to move with the punches. I was never one of those kids who was like, oh, I'm super attached to the people at my school and people I'm around, because I was moving around at these weird times where as soon as I would get close with people, we would move. And it was really traumatic, honestly, when I was younger, 4th, 5th grade, moving or whatever, and I was crying at the drive, why do we have to move? But it worked out because, like I said, in my everyday life, I feel like I kind of roll with the punches pretty well, and I get over things quickly, and I move on, and I'm able to kind of just keep the train moving.
How did your parents' professional life inform your aspirations?
Their professional life? Not at all. Not really. I mean, my mom was a teacher, but then she stopped and she was just taking care of the kids. My dad was at a bank, and then he worked at an advertising agency. But he was always just really musical. His dad, my grandfather, taught me how to play guitar. He was
Oh, really?
yeah, he was
I've
in a
heard
band
that
with his
story.
brother, and he was a painter and an architect. My mom's great-grandmother would play the organ and piano at people in the mafia's weddings. So there was music on both sides, but their professional lives personally weren't necessarily influential, because it had nothing to do with music. It had nothing to do with anything. Despite what people try to start some random rumor your dad worked for Columbia. It's
How did that
what?
rumor get started?
It started
I
on
never heard
a
that.
Kanye to the forum, just randomly.
Okay.
But then I confronted the guy who started it. And I DM'd him, I was like, dog, you know that's fake. He was like, I know, da 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 da. And then he tweeted that it was bullshit. But it's it doesn't matter, the damage was done. It's fucked up because people would put me in a position where in order to rebuttal a ridiculous rumor, I would have to put my dad in a negative light, which is he didn't work at Columbia. He He lost his job when I was making music. Fortunately, my music started making money where I could take care of the whole family.
At what age
That's awesome,
did
though.
you
That's a good
start
story.
to really take
Being able to
music
help your family.
seriously?
I feel like I still don't take it serious. I'm scared of taking it serious. I think when I've taken it too serious, I start thinking too much. The industry is what makes you take it serious. You go from making music in the basement with your friends to like talking with old people who play softball on Sundays and like talking about like, this will do well for our urban audience. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, this sucks. Can I go back to the basement? This is it, man. This is the only room in the house that matters, outside of the kitchen.
How much time do you spend in here a day?
Hours and hours. I was down here last night from 8 p.m. till 7 a.m. Like all day, I feel like I have anxiety because I'm constantly thinking about music and making a song. Being able to come down here by myself, close the doors, get kind of lost down here, it's really therapeutic for me. It allows me to be completely free and just sort of lose my mind in the best way possible.
You started making beats at 14.
Correct. When I moved to Georgia, Boogus was like one of my first friends.
And he was MC and you were the producer at that
Correct, yeah. And he wasn't even rapping at first. At first, I'm just making beats, and Boogus hears that I've been making beats, and he's like, oh, I have friends that rap. And so Boogus is bringing those people over to my parents' house, and we have this janky setup of like a mic from the video game Rock Band and like fucking pantyhose as the pop filter over the wire, closed wire hanger, and the guitar amp as a speaker in GarageBand. So like, but it was incredible, and we were ecstatic. January 1st, 2010 is the day Boogus got his studio equipment at his parents' house. And that's the equipment I recorded my whole career on up until Shake the Snow Globe. So like everything, including the second album, including Zoo. Boogus went to Morehouse, I went to Valdosta. But being in my dorm room, I'm just making beats, and I start experimenting with like songs, like writing my own shit. I didn't have a mic or anything in the dorm. I just had my Mac, my laptop. I would put headphones in, and I would record just using the Mac's mic, so it sounded like dog shit, and the songs were horrendous. But I kind of got the bug from that. I was like, wow, this is fucking awesome.
Did you guys have any inroads to the industry or connections with local rappers
This
or
is
anything?
awesome.
No,
I
we
love
didn't know
interviews
anyone.
by Russ.
And after first semester of college, I remember like not even taking my finals and selling all my textbooks for like an ounce of weed and smoking and making beats during finals week, which I'm sure my parents were thrilled about. Music was always a hobby, and it just slowly started becoming more and more of my everyday life, to the point that, okay, let me give this a real shot. So my mom wanted me to stay in school. My dad was like, go for it. Spring break of second semester, freshman year in college, we go out to LA. Boogus brings me out to California for my first time. He was born in LA. We shot his song Cali, and I think like a couple months later, he was spamming Rob Markman on Twitter, just like talking shit. And long story short, Rob Markman ends up responding and like puts Boogus on Get in the Game when they used to do that segment.
On MTV.
Yeah. After that happened, I was like, we got on MTV. I'm not talking to anyone, and I'm doing music full time. Fuck what y'all talking about. I never went back to a classroom ever again. And I was still just making beats for Boogus. And there was another friend of ours that was rapping. I was making beats for him. And we put out this project called 2020. I produced the whole thing. And I was on some of the songs, but I hadn't put out any of my own music. And I remember I was in Boogus' studio, and I'm like doing a hook or something on one of his songs. And I was in the booth, I was like, yo, should I start rapping? And he was like, absolutely, hell yeah. And I was like, cool. Like, Boogus is one of those people whose like opinions, especially with music, that I value extremely. So if Boogus told me, like, absolutely, put the battery in my back.
What's the most important idea you've ever had?
To pursue my dream.
Having tasted that initial validation from MTV, and having explored what it felt like not just to produce, but to step in front of the mic, Russ was all in. From 2011 through 2014, he would release 11 projects, working at an exhausting rate, but was unable to build a fan base, or a business model that could sustain his ambition. Still, that period ultimately would prove invaluable for what it would teach him about his craft.
2011, I put out my first project, Velvet, and then 11 projects later got me to 2014, and then I started doing a song a week.
And what is motivating you to churn out music at that volume?
I got bit by the bug of like being an artist and making my own songs, and I was hooked and I was obsessed with it. But I was so obsessed with the idea of like what this could turn into. I wanted to keep getting better. I had so much to say, so I just made a shit ton of music.
Did you feel like you were getting better as the projects went?
It's funny because there was like sessions where noticeable growth happened. Like the first verse on Didn't I? That was the first time where I figured out this whole rapping, singing thing, like a cool tone, to kind of like a different cadence that I hadn't used yet. And I remember Colorblind, like end of 2013, and The Edge, like those. And I remember Colorblind, like end of 2013, and The Edge, like those were when I
So I've
really
heard some of
started
them
getting
songs. I
close
haven't
to
listened to the
finding something
album
that was like
from
gonna be
beginning to
solid.
end, but some of them
And
songs
then
I have heard.
2014 with Pink Elephant at the top of the
And,
year,
like-
when I made Goodbye, which was my first song to ever do like any sort of damage, I was like, oh, okay. This is now what I think is good enough for real to blow up.
Are you working to support yourself during this time too?
No, so my mom made me sign a contract that said if you're not supporting yourself by this age, then you have to either go back to school or get a job.
What was the narrative in your head as you're making these projects? Like,
I thought every single one was gonna blow up. That's what was so ridiculous. I just thought it was so good that it's just gonna blow up. But it's like, that's the type of delusional confidence you need. So that's when I was really like emailing every writer I emailed you a million times. You probably don't even remember. Yeah, for sure. What? You should go back and look at those. Those are probably nuts. I emailed everyone at Pigeons and Planes, at Pitchfork, at Fader, at Complex, at Double XL. Everyone, like hundreds of times a day.
and you still know no one in the actual industry?
No, that's why I'm emailing. And after spamming Shake from Two Dope Boys, he put up a screenshot of my emails to him. He was like, another spammer who doesn't get it. And we got into a whole exchange like on Twitter, like, so you got time to post my screenshot, but not time to read the email, da-da-da-da. Anyway, he ends up checking out the music and he posts it. And so then I ended up having a relationship with Shake. And I had a relationship with DJ Booth too,
Okay.
Z over
Yep.
at DJ Booth, because he was posting, he was early on it.
Were those posts making any sort of material difference to, like,
The blog post?
yeah, the momentum?
In my head, it was. When we first got posted on Two Dope Boys, we lost our mind. I felt better. We felt better. So it's like, yeah, it meant something. The momentum in my life felt better. I was able to be more positive because I was like, okay, shit is happening. That's a milestone back then. But then I put out my last project, my 11th project, fall of 2014, and I was like, fuck, this shit is not working. This approach isn't working. But I was like, the music is good enough. And this is around the time SoundCloud was like becoming a thing. And I never liked SoundCloud at that time because I just didn't like how it looked. But I was like, you know what? Let me like study it. And I noticed that everyone's first song on their album was getting the most plays, and it would go down from there. And I was like, oh, all right, well, instead of putting out projects, which clearly get slept on, even if you're a big artist, I'm gonna just give y'all the top song every time. I'm just give you one song a week. And that's kind of what hatched the plan of like, I'm gonna have the album on the side, but I'm gonna go make 25 to 50 songs, stock them up, and give y'all one every week until I blow up. And that's what I said. I get writer's block frequently. I think writer's block comes from overthinking. It's all just get on the mic with nothing written down and no kind of concept of anything, and force myself to just spew shit out.
What's the moment that you felt like everything started to change?
It was like slowly tipping. That was the thing. I made a song with a kid from Belgium and went out to Belgium and did a 300-person sold-out show. And since then, Belgium has always been one of my biggest markets. I even take that into consideration now. Like, I got a song with a Brazilian artist. I'm trying to do songs with people from any country that's dope, because I know from 2014 and 2015, when I go like connect with an artist from there and give y'all music that y'all can fuck with, it's a wrap. I'm solidified forever. So 2015 is going, I'm putting out a song a week, and I have all the social medias now. I have Snapchat, I have Instagram, and I'm noticing on my Snapchat so many Middle Eastern people hitting me up, and I was like, okay, like, I'ma just talk about this. And in one of my songs, on my song Too Many, I mentioned women from Saudi Arabia, and it went nuts. So then I mentioned them again on Pull the Trigger. That really helped me grow my connection with that audience. In the span, I would say, of like a month, I put out What They Want, Too Many, and Pull the Trigger.
What was going on with you creatively?
I was in such a fucking free bag, bro. There was no outside chatter. I wasn't famous. I didn't have money like that. 2015, I was making $500 a month. I was just at like my purest level of expression. Things are starting to get plays, and Milan reaches out. Milan's my manager. But I remember telling Milan at that time, because I had been studying the game, I knew I needed a booking agent because I was like, I want to go on the road, I want to go on tour. And so I told Milan, I was like, I don't want to talk until you get me Kara Lewis. And like, long story short, he ends up getting me a meeting with Kara Lewis, gets me Kara Lewis. It was like a lot of small compounded victories that ended up exploding into, you know, a bigger thing. Once I put out the videos for What They Want to Losing Control, that's what sent them to the roof. So 2016 is when we put the videos out, open for Bryson Tiller. Things are happening. What They Want Losing Control are blowing up and going fucking crazy.
Where are your delusions of grandeur at this point?
I'm like, I fucking knew it. I fucking told y'all. Y'all fucks, I told y'all. So Kara gets me my international booking agent because a lot of my fans were overseas. You know what I mean? So my first tour ever was a European tour.
Really?
Yeah, so I did like Manchester, 150 kids at the Ruby, I'll never forget. London, 300 kids sold out. Belgium, 1,100, biggest show on tour because I had planted the seeds. Broke even on tour, but it was incredible. Came back from that tour. Now things are happening, things are blowing up. And I'm reading my analytics. I used to send Kara like my SoundCloud analytics. I'm like, look, these are my top 10 cities. Let me just go to the top 10. So that's what I did. Like my first tour, the What They Want tour in the summer of 2016, everything was fucking sold out. It was crazy. And from there, that's when labels really started calling, started taking meetings, and partnered with Columbia.
When you did the deal with Columbia, were you 100% on board?
I wanted radio. I'm looking around the
you wanted
game, and I'm like,
radio.
well, everyone's on radio, and everyone on radio has a label, and I want to be the biggest artist in the world, so I got to level the playing field.
What is the deal like from Columbia?
The deal was a really good deal. Profit split deal, which was like rare at the time. Most new artists, it's a royalty rate deal. Keep my masters, they don't have my publishing, it's not 360, they don't touch my merch, full creative control, I can do whatever I want. And it just made sense, you know, it was time to like level up, and at that time, that's what a level up looked like.
But you're in the major label system.
Yeah.
What was that experience
That's
like?
Doing the debut album was sort of
amazing
like
deal, bro.
the plot point one, you know what I mean? It was like, I'm here for real. And it was so successful. The touring was crazy. That debut album is like one of the most commercially successful debut albums ever. You know, 7 songs on there with a plaque. One of them is 5 times platinum. One of them is 4 times platinum. You know, I produced it, obviously did the whole thing. Like, that shit is crazy. That shit is a classic by default.
I can't wait
just for
till
what it
Russ wins the
stands for.
Grammy,
You
bro.
don't have to like the music or whatever, but what it represents is
That's gonna be
pure
well deserved once he
DIY-ness,
gets that
you
for
know?
sure.
It's never been done before.
When you put out this debut, did this like scratch every itch, all of your delusions? Was this them realized, or was the chip still there on your shoulder?
Yeah, because I was like, in my head when I was 17, I was like, my debut album's gonna come out and I'm gonna do 600,000 week 1. It did 49. I was like, what the fuck?
This was the beginning of streaming, and it was like a very weird time. All the
Super weird.
numbers
Super
were kind of funky for everybody.
Yeah,
How did you process that?
I wasn't fucking with it. I was like, this is whack. But it was cool. It taught me that week 52 matters more than week 1. Because it ended up going platinum anyway, within a year. When the record itself is timeless and it's raw and you have real fans, you don't have to like work it. The fans work it. Psycho Part 2 and Ain't Nobody Take My Baby are both platinum songs that never got worked, ever. They were never playlisted, they were never pitched, they were never worked at radio. Losing Control is 5 times platinum. I think it peaked at 67 or some shit. And it goes platinum every
Who got
year.
a kid?
That's a diamond song. Bet on the fans and bet on good music and you'll be all right.
in the streaming era, there is, for many, if not most artists, a sort of disposableness. Projects come and go.
Yeah.
You've managed to have these songs that live for 18 months, 24 months.
Yeah.
To what do you attribute that?
I never wanted microwave music. I didn't want quick, like here for 2 months and gone. I always looked up to and idolized like
Russ
artists
got
who
timeless
made
music.
timeless
like,
stuff. Kanye's and
I still listen to his old stuff.
Drake's, Jay-Z's, Kendrick's, you know, Cudi. So it's definitely intentional, but at the same time, it's the messages. I don't know. I just made songs about my real life, and I made my sound and my music. My ideas, I believe, come from the source, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, the creator. Sometimes I get the message and sometimes I don't, but I'm constantly chasing that conversation.
So after the success of the first album, what were your immediate goals for the Zoo project?
Everyone was fucking with me. It was all positive. There was no haters. End of 2017, hate starts to come in.
What is inspiring the hate?
The t-shirt of the Xanax in the lead and the, shit like that. The Everyday Struggle interview with Nadeska.
What was that like, though, emotionally for you to go from being kind of the people's champ that's like this underdog success story to now
People
all of a
hated
sudden,
for the
Get
wrong
him the
reason.
fuck out of here.
fuck Russ is
Yeah,
trending on
bro,
Twitter.
it was fucking... That was tough, man. That was tough. My confidence and my faith had not been tested up until that point. I have a temper, and I'm confrontational, and so it didn't do well for my mental health because I was just like, y'all got me fucked up. Fuck y'all. So the pendulum started to swing. So Zoo got made in the middle of that, in the belly of the beast. Zoo was everything that title says, from the making of it to where I was mentally to even the day it came out. It was a Zoo. And then it comes out the day Mac Miller dies, September 7th. That was around the time where anytime anyone died, people would make like meme accounts, would have Photoshop fake tweets that I made, that I never made. Anytime anyone got into
remember
anything with
seeing
drugs,
that
like there would be a fake
screenshot.
tweet of mine. And it's fucked up because I don't mind when people are like, fuck your music sucks. I'm like, whatever. You know, like, I think it's awesome. I don't care what you're talking about. Like, it's too late for
You
that.
don't need
But
everyone
when they
to
start
like
like
music, so-
assassinating your character and trying to paint you to be this person that you're not, or like making up fake stories about you or fake tweets, and that's why I'm losing fans. Like when I was getting DMs from hundreds of fans being like, I can't believe you said this about Mac Miller, and I can't believe you said this about XXX, and I'm like, I never said anything about either of them. Those are fake tweets, and you're a fucking idiot. And I would get pissed because I'm like, how dare y'all have the ability to make fans of mine that I busted my ass to get dip and become haters off of fraudulent,
Yeah.
fabricated, made up tweets and shit. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, hate me for shit I actually say. Hate me for my music. That's fine. But don't hate me for a lie. That's
Facts.
crazy. And we live in a world where if it gets enough retweets, it's true.
Were you able
Facts.
to like put your phone down?
Yeah, so I got off social media for like a month and a half. And it helped a lot. But I felt like a bitch because I was like, this isn't tough. You just ran away from it. I need to be able to be on social media, see it, and not give a fuck.
Have you gotten to that place?
Yeah, for the most part.
What do you think it is about you that has made you such a lightning rod?
I'm a dickhead sometimes with like my approach and how I talk. If I was saying fucked up things, then I get it. But I was never saying fuck. I never said anything that was fucked up. I never said anything that wasn't true. Like, there's real problems in the world. There's people who are really promoting bullshit, and you're mad because of like my delivery. There's a lot of times where I've mentioned in songs like, man, if I was quiet, you know how much bigger I would be?
Do you think that's real?
Yeah. Because when you're quiet and we don't know what you really think, we all like you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What is success?
I think it's being content. So peace in general, I would say, is success.
Whether it was his outsider success, his unbridled brazenness, his perceived insensitivity, or more likely
shame
some
of that
combination
quiz.
of them all, it felt like Russ had become public enemy number one. And for a bit, this reality would be reflected in his music and in his life. But as time passed, the same qualities that took him from his friend's basement to stadium tours, like staying true to himself and his unrelenting dedication to music, would lift Russ back on top.
I love Russ interviews, bro. Oh, good. It's
How
not
did
over. We still got
you
time. Let's go.
go about bouncing back from that moment?
Gratitude. Yeah, I was very focused on what was like shit and the negative, and I wasn't focused on the highs. And it's hard because negativity is much louder. It stands out more. I had to just like tap back into gratitude and it's an everyday battle. No, I didn't understand. I learned as I went that you really need to be grateful because the pendulum swings. Everything's going great. Soak up every second of that moment because it's not always like that. You're not always in that hot space where everything's going right. So you're gonna experience the lows too. Everyone does. Then when the lows come, be grateful and have awareness and perspective that, okay, this will pass and it's gonna swing again. When it swings again, I'll be so grateful. I process criticism differently depending on who the criticism comes from. Especially like my friends, like I ask them like, yo, what do you think of this, da 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 da. So I have like a brain trust. But other than that, I don't really give a fuck what you have to say because there's no credibility there.
How did you feel about the reception to the third record?
The third album is fire. I feel like the reception was okay, but I feel like my albums are really, really indicative of the title. So drop an album called Shake the Snow Globe at the top of 2020, which is me basically like shaking off the cobwebs and shaking off the hate, you know? So the album feels like that. But then the fucking coronavirus hits and the whole world gets shook.
And that was the end of your relationship with Columbia?
The deluxe was.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So I had one more album with them, but we just agreed to like mutually go our separate ways. It just wasn't working. And it wasn't like, it was becoming too much of a battle.
How so?
Just differences in strategies, and also I just got to that point where I was like, I can really run all this myself.
What were the most important things that you got out of that relationship, both sort of transactionally, but also like what did you learn?
I learned that the whole industry is ran by just like, it's a couple people. If you know that guy at Spotify, that guy at Apple, you know, this person at Rhythm Radio, and this person at Urban Radio. Between 4 people, you can run the whole shit.
Which is why at a certain point you decided you didn't need.
Because I knew the 4 people and had the money. So I was like, all right, I'm good from here.
What are the steps that one takes if they're Russ and they decide they're gonna run it all themselves?
I can tell you the exact steps. Like on my own label, because the production is already in-house. Like the videos and the music is handled on my end. That's easy. You go get the Rhythm Radio guy. You go get the Urban Radio guy. You go hire the PR agency. And that's it. And like the labels use them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The labels outsource and use the people that I have. Being with my time with a label was very like, you start thinking differently because I'm hands-on. So I'm in the label meetings and I'm talking with the product managers and the A&Rs on text and like the group. Like it makes it very business.
How do you manage to sort of switch hats between business entrepreneur Russ and
Artist Russ.
unbridled creative Russ?
It's tough because there's no office. There's no like I wake up in the morning, go to the office and be business and come home and be studio. It's just like a clusterfuck of like, I'll be walking around my house writing a song, but then get a call from my business manager and it's like, and then I have to hang up and be like, wow, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Jay-Z has a quote where he says something like, when you walk into the studio, you have to leave like Sean Carter at the door and outside, and Jay-Z
become
has to,
Jay-Z.
like, you have to separate
Yeah.
the business from the, and it's tough when you're so down the rabbit hole of the business. Yeah, man, that's the fun part about being independent is that no label meetings. You know, a label meeting is me talking to myself in the mirror.
What's the story with the logo?
So
That's
the
the-
logo,
it's
the
so
EM
simple, but
comes
it's fire.
from Diamond, DIEMON,
Okay. Yep.
which is me and Boogie's label. So it started off as a website, and it stands for Do It Everyday Music or Nothing, and kind of like blossomed into this brand and this sort of this label now that we're starting. It's a lifestyle, man. It's something that we started at 17, being 28 now.
Shout out to
It's like
Diamond.
just one of the few common denominators.
How do you think about building the financial model for Russ Inc.?
I mean, I always want to make more just because I'm competitive, but it's a well-oiled machine at this point, and I don't like looking at music as money. I make music, put it out, and I know the more music I put out, the more I'll make, obviously, but I'm just focused on like the creative, like making sure I'm always in the right headspace and making sure I'm still aware, present, and listening to the source when I get the inspiration so that I can deliver it in the studio.
How do you
Yeah,
and Bruce
that
break
makes sense.
down like the roles and responsibilities for Diamond?
Whatever artist he wants to sign, he can sign. If I don't want to put money up on them, then I won't, then it's all you, and vice versa. But it's like, because we just trust each other and it's literally family.
That's awesome.
How
bro.
has
Diamonds is
sort of
awesome.
navigating your personal relationship with him, and obviously you've had pretty tremendous commercial success and he has not.
Yeah.
Has that been a point of sort of friction or tension at all?
None at all, which is like such a testament to his character and his confidence. And we were always on the same page. Like he gave me the books that changed my life. Like he put The Alchemist in my hands. He put Deepak Chopra in my hands. He put Napoleon Hill in my hands. So like there's no doubt in his mind or my mind, but most importantly his mind, that he's going to be the biggest artist in the world. And he's not lost a step of that. Because he's like, what? I was right there with you the whole time. Oh, this can absolutely and will happen for me because I watched it happen for you. So he's not offended by the success or intimidated, or he's inspired by it. And that's the best kind of friend you could ask for.
Do you
That's
have
a brother,
like,
bruh.
specific vision for the label?
Yeah, we
I
definitely
love
do,
this.
for sure.
What is that?
Longevity acts. A Diamond stands for do it everyday music or nothing. It's got to be people who really love music, not like, oh, I was doing this for a check. So the people that I'm assigned are like obviously super talented, but like they're gonna be around forever because they're hungry about music. I talk about it with Boogies a lot, where I'm like, man, when you're not on and you don't have fans, you just assume that every song is a hit and people just haven't heard of you yet. When you have fans and songs that you think are hits and they don't do quote unquote well, then you start wondering like, is it me or is it, you know what I'm saying? I try to just be metabolic. I make the song so I can put it out, so I can make another one so I can put it out.
Who are your fans?
Everyone.
I'm about to say, yeah, everybody.
Everyone.
Russ got music for
For real.
everybody.
That's what the data says. For real. You'll see people from India at the show. You'll see people from Nigeria at the show. You'll see white girls from Virginia at the show. You'll see Hispanics from LA at the show. You'll see everyone at my show because my music is for everyone. Out of everyone in the industry, I have the most organic come up. I was never all over the radio. I was never in mainstream media. I was never any of that. It's like I'm almost still
I think the only song I ever heard on
an
the radio by
underdog,
Russ
still
is
slept on it. And
Best
it's like,
on
I
Earth.
love that.
And I didn't even know it was Russ
something
at
to the world
first. I
that
wasn't
didn't
listening
exist
to him back then.
before, which is me.
I listened to a
And my
playlist
fans
and that
can't
song
get
came
me
up and I
from
was like, this is
anywhere else.
a Russ
And when you
song?
do that, when you give your true self as an artist to the world, you live forever because we can't get
That's
you
how
from
new I
anywhere
am
else. So when we want you,
be
we
a
have
fan
to
of
listen
Russ.
to you.
But I still listen to all the old stuff. All right. Hold on.